So the host for the next poolside chat is Ms. Aparna Piramal Raje, and she's going to roast Mr. Anuj Prasad.
Hi, Anuj. So we've known each other a while. So now we've had Bollywood weddings, we've had Bollywood set design. So I think it's just better if we just tell everyone that the bar's open and we can just have drinks right away. So anyway, um, let's get straight into it. Okay, I met you a long time ago, but I remember the first time we had this conversation. It was back in 2010. And I went over to Anuj's studio in Delhi, and he just shows me this 3D printing machine. And he says, you know, I have no idea what I'm going to use it for, but I just couldn't stop myself from buying it. So after that 3D printing experience, he got motivated and he got himself a whole studio in Manesar, which is India's first automotive studio. And then he said, I'm nearly bankrupt. So how do we deal with that, Anuj? Tell me what drove you to, invest in this way and be in this situation, and then how did you actually try and get yourself out of that situation?
So I think mostly the word which I use for myself is I'm really dumb in business. I really don't know what business is. I just go by my heart. So whatever I feel like doing, I just do it without really thinking about the consequences. So it's a fearless way of doing work as a designer, whatever I feel like I do. And later on, when things happen, then I just take it in the stride. I think that's the way I work.
No, but are you sort of saying that, have you had any regrets at all about some of the decisions that you've made?
Not at all. So no regrets at all, because, see, there have been successes and failures, but I really value the failures in a much bigger way, because I think that has been the most precious time for me, where I have learned so much. Though I don't know how much I learn and how much I practice from those learning, but I think it gives you a very deep insight into many things when you fail, and it doesn't stop you from doing new things.
Yeah, I mean, actually, in fact, the word now people use is not even so much about failure, but actually about vulnerability. And in fact, of just being authentic and saying, look, there are times when things haven't worked out, and how we got, back on track. So what were you really trying to show with that investment into the studio in Manesar? What was it that you were really trying to kind of invest in? What was the ecosystem that you were trying to build?
See, I think the reason why I went into, first of all, I think one of the big challenges which I took myself was to scale up design without really knowing that scaling up design is an extremely challenging thing. Across the globe, if you see, you don't have scaled up design companies. But then I thought I was a startup way back in 96, like the startups you have right now. At that time, we didn't have money, we didn't have the investors. We just started from, bootstrapping and a garage studio and such kind of things, similar to what people do now. Of course, we are much older now. But the will to do things, and taking inspiration from so much happening around you. So I thought, let me scale up design. I didn't have a formula actually, but what I thought at that time was that it's important to create new revenue streams, and those revenue streams actually have to come from things which you really like doing, because you can't be going and manufacturing bottles.
Yeah.
You have to do things which you're really passionate about. So I was very keen on clay right from my childhood, and I was very clay-oriented person. I learned, making things out of clay. My nani taught me so many things. And this clay, the clay modeling is something which really was close to my heart somehow. So I thought, and just by luck, we got a couple of projects from big companies like Yamaha, Honda, and all. They made us learn some clay modeling. I was very, very excited about the whole thing. And my gut said that, yeah, India is happening. 2008, 2002, 2008, India was really happening. It was going on a very, very high trajectory. And I just took a plunge. I said, look, okay, let me do something which is India's first clay modeling studio, which can actually make 1:1 cars. And we'll make prototypes, we'll make show cars, and also design in the run. But so I just took a plunge, and there was no way that, you don't have investors coming into design companies. So
Yeah.
I took a debt, I took
Yeah.
I think more than $500,000 debt at that time, and put in everything purely on my gut feel, I would say. Though that gut feel was substantiated by the work which we had done in the past. So I just took a plunge.
And today you're in a situation where you're working with a lot of automotive companies, and
Yes.
to some extent that plunge that you took is paying off. And
No, I'm very excited about the whole thing. It still keeps me, alive, and I feel very happy doing the kind of projects which we do, which are very, very different from any studio probably in the country. And we do variety of things. We don't do only automotive.
Yeah.
Automotive is something which we started in 2010, whereas our bread and butter was industrial design, which we actually almost pioneered in 96 or so. And so that has been still the mainstay because that's something which is recognized in the market and well accepted. But if you look at automotive, I think like the 3D printer I bought in 2006, 12 years back, I spent 28 lakh rupees
Yeah.
taking a debt from the bank just because I wanted to do it. And so did it give me an ROI or not? I do not know, but definitely it gave us a huge amount of learning. The kind of stuff which we could do at that time was something which was not seen in India. So these things do help you. And so if I look at the ROI of this automotive, I think design pays in the long run. I think you have to traverse the journey to get the ROI. But I think most of the designers sitting out here, they don't work for ROI. I'm sure they work more for pleasure. And ROI is something which actually comes if you do good work and you keep your client happy, like what Joseph said just now. So if you can just keep your clients happy, you keep getting work, and it's I think more of happiness than the ROI.
Yeah. So do you have a feeling that this studio kind of has changed some of the shape of that part of the industry, at least auto part, but also industrial? Like people are, this is you're on the radar of clients now who have the budgets to invest in this kind of thing.
So it has really helped, because earlier there was nothing like this which was, which happened in India. There's nobody who was offering such kind of thing. Nobody had actually the guts to invest so much because this was a capital-intensive business, and only industrial houses could have actually invested. They didn't have the belief in design and such kind of things. So I had belief, and I took debt, and I put in this, and it created a facility which was one of its kind in those days. And it gave a chance to big companies, even like Maruti and Renault and all. They came to us and they got the stuff done. And they said that it's actually comparable to what we are doing in the West. So to me, it was more of happiness that we could do something which is as good as what the developed countries can do. We can actually cater to the clients and satisfy them with the kind of work which we do. So I think it has given us that ROI.
Yeah, no, that's really great. So, there's always this challenge, we say, this dilemma, should you stay in India or should you go abroad and maybe start something there? You've been very pretty clear that you wanted always to stay in India.
Yeah, because see, India is a place, it's a happening place.
Yeah, but
The kind of stuff which you can do
I'm going to
out-
push you, okay? I'm going to sort of push you a little bit, because at one end we say in the West, like, everything is very resolved and there's a lot of, the work over there is not so interesting. And the work in India is very interesting because there are so many problems that we as designers or design thinkers want to solve. Having said that, we say, oh, so much innovation is happening in the West. So if things are kind of...
So it'll happen, see, it's happening in India also. If you look at the kind of innovation, the genesis which has already happened with the new startups, it's as good as or maybe better than what has happened in the West now. And these things are going to take shape in the years to come. So I think India is a place for innovation. India is a place of huge amount of problems which can be solved through design. And I think the whole experience is so much more soulful and, more meaningful for the designers to do something and feel happy, satisfied about it, rather than
the
just scratching a
traffic, all the
surface over there in the
bureaucracy.
West and doing something and having a comfy life. And but we would like to earn money from the West for sure. We would like to earn in dollars so that we can So that's something which is important, I think. So that's something which is also one of the major objectives for us to spread our wings outside India and get their money.
Yeah, if you benchmarked yourself with studios around the world doing this kind of work, do you feel that you are in a certain league or you would be able to compare with them in certain areas?
So I think largely, if you look at the automotive studios, they also do industrial design, whereas we do industrial design and automotive design, I would say. It is a summation rather than also kind of an accessory service which is there. So I have, actually, if you ask me, I haven't really seen such kind of studios. I've seen many industrial design studios across the globe. But either they're automotive studios or they're product design studios.
So
we
here
were
you do a
product
lot
design
of-
studios, and we say that we can do equally well in automotive. And
Yeah. Actually, yeah, in fact, that brings me to the next point that I've always felt, and people, I think in Stanford, they originated this idea of the T-shaped person, you know, the idea that as designers, we should always be people who have domain expertise in one particular function, which is the length of the T, and then we have also that ability to collaborate and cross-pollinate and learn from other disciplines, and that becomes like the breadth. So do you see in your workforce people doing that kind of thing? And you know, typically, like you may want to roast me as a client, you know, but as previously as we had a furniture company and which I was running as a family business, the challenge we used to always face is that there's not enough of that length of the T. You know, and it's a chicken and egg situation because unless somebody gives the agency some work, they're not able to develop the expertise that they require to actually fulfill the work, you know. So how do you see this?
So the way it has happened, I always quote this example of, you know, the flying hours which you have, which means a pilot gets a certain number of flying hours and he's known by that. Like the Uber driver, you know, the stars that he gets.
Yeah.
And he gets a rating of 4.74 and 4.9. That is because number of times he has done this trip and he has got this rating and it accumulates and gives you a very good average. Same happens with the designers. When we started out, which was way back in late 90s, there was nothing called industrial design. Actually, when we started, no one knew what industrial design was. So if you say that, okay, while we are from NID and we can do fantastic work and all, but did you have the flying hours? We didn't have. We have accumulated these flying hours over the last 22 years, and that is what has given us this vertical, which is extending. And it's extending with most of design companies.
Yeah,
because
in a way,
the number of projects
yeah.
that you do, that is what gives you that
Actually,
team.
what happens is a process, right? The first you have the T, the line of the T, and then you have the horizontal, and then the horizontal itself becomes the vertical, and then you have a new horizontal that's come up, right?
So I
it
think
keeps
in,
sort of
in
evolving.
India it is more of I, you know, so you start with everything possible.
Yeah.
Without having much knowledge about it because you want to earn money and survive.
Yeah, okay.
And then you take probably that vertical line and then you grow the T over it. So it becomes I believe.
As long as, good. As long as IT doesn't stand for information technology, but yes, that's great. So the other thing, you know, you talked about also about the importance of learning. And, you know, it was a very interesting, I met the person who founded the D School at Stanford, this George Kemble. And he said that the reason that, you know, as we know, the D School is one of those places where everybody comes from another degree and they study. So they're not actually studying just to be a designer. There could be even a doctor who wants to study a course in design or somebody in business school. So they have all different practices coming there. And I asked him what is the most successful type of people who go there. And he said that actually the people who can switch different ways of working, you know, so they can switch modes. Sometimes they are students, sometimes they are practitioners, sometimes they are learners. So what do you think about this idea, and how do you practice it?
I think this is something which is inherent in all the Indians, you know, because the kind of complex society which we have to play all these three roles all the time concurrently, I believe. So for them, maybe they have organized it like that. We haven't organized, but we do it all the time. So it makes sense, definitely. And but in India, see, we can't ape Western way of thinking, and
No, agreed. Yeah.
we have to be ourselves. Somebody was talking about Indian design many a times, you know. So if somebody comes and asks me what is Indian design, I'm an Indian. I'm 70% Indian, probably some as inspiration I get from the West, 30%. So my designs, or all the designers, probably they'll design at least 70% Indian products, you know. Now what is Indian in that? Because you're an Indian, you design Indian in India for the Indian socio-cultural kind of a ecosystem. So it's Indian design. Why do we call it Western or anything? It is we who are designing. We are Indians and we design Indian stuff. You know?
So what you're saying is that even if it looks multinational, you're saying just it's been designed.
So if you look at the products which come out, they are actually Indian. Nobody has actually been able to decipher what is Indian about it. But to me, if you go by the way we organize the stuff, so I would say Jhatka is something which is Indian. More colors is Indian. More curves are Indian. More clutter is Indian, and you can see it's there. You see Mahindra vehicles, they're so Indian.
Yeah, I think the challenge
are they Western by any chance? They were so Indian, and it works very well in the market.
I think the challenge, though, is that, you know, people expect that there's going to be one Indian, you know, concept or something. Just like when you look at Scandinavian or Japanese design, it's a very definitive form. You know, it's quite impossible to expect this country to have one expression of that.
So I think the attributes which are kind of inherent in our society, like chaos, clutter, color, you see it in Indian designs. It
Yeah.
happens. It happens by default. You don't have to make a special effort to do
Yeah.
it. You actually have to make a special effort to make a minimalistic design out here in India.
Yeah, that is true. In terms of running your studio, what have you learned? And something I think you could advise the audience here, because as we all know that people, when you go to NID, you're not going to learn about how to read a P&L account. So how did you learn about your team?
I
Your team
think-
is 40 people now, you said?
Yeah.
It's a largish number, so...
So I think, like I'm sure everybody who's running a design company, you've taken a train with a destination which is unknown to you, and every station there's a certain amount of learning or the brownie points which you accumulate during your journey, and gradually as you grow, I think also by age you like to do certain things. Like when I started out, I told my family members, this is exactly what I want to do. Sit at home, have a computer in front, and design. I don't want anything else. But so I think 15 years later, when I had like 25, 30 people in my team, so the same person in the family came and said, but you said that you will do this only, But I said, I am 40 plus now. The way I think it has changed.
No, but
And
do you still get to design?
So I do.
Okay.
I do, but I do largely mentoring, some bit of sketching to an extent. Certain areas I do sketching myself, but maybe, not with the whole team. The mainstream projects, I don't get into doing creative work, but I really mentor the designers and the youngsters. And I also try to make it as democratic as possible. It is not a single person, one person driven kind of a team. Though, of course, I lead the team and lead the company, but there are many more leaders who are there. We give chance to everybody. We give chance to interns and everybody for doing creative stuff. So I think it is not something which is my signature or something which goes on the products. It's a team effort which we believe in.
So design is often kind of described as problem solving, and I think there's more to design than that also. But at some level, that means you have to think of things at a very large scale. And at the same time, a lot of designers, people are working individually or in small teams, and the work is kind of very much conducive to be done at a small scale. Where do you think design can play a role to solve, let's say, a lot of problems that we have in India today? And what does it need? What does it really need for... to have impact with all the other stakeholders?
That's something which is new to India, that design can solve problems. Till now, design has
designers can solve problems.
Sorry?
That designers can solve problems.
Exactly.
I guess people have been designing all along,
Absolutely.
but
So designers were treated as people who do cosmetics,
Yeah.
And still many companies feel that designers do stuff which is very cosmetic in nature, surface level, to make things beautiful. Of course, we have to make it beautiful. That's something which is part of our core strength and competency, which is essential because it's perception. But at the same time, solving problem is something which people are realizing now. And with all this stuff, jargons of design thinking and all this stuff happening, and more people aware of, that design thinking can solve problems, though all the other peripheral professions have actually taken up to design thinking without really knowing how it is being done, So I call it design thinking and doing, and not design thinking only, How to do design thinking.
Yeah.
But it's happening. So I firmly believe that it takes its own sweet course of time for the changes to happen in a society.
How have the conversations changed with your clients, for example? Like, are you again, coming from a business that was very manufacturing oriented, you're thinking about the product you need to get out, you're thinking of the commercial realities, you're working with a partner. Maybe sustainability is not the biggest thing on the agenda because it's not. But I'm just trying to understand has your relationship deepened with clients over this last 15, 20 years, 25 years?
It has definitely gone down to the core in the clients, because the belief in design is something which has got really hardened now.
It's not just a belief, it's the trust. Like, can you, for example,
first is the
write a
belief,
brief for a client?
First of all is the belief in design itself, not in a designer or not in a company like ours, but belief in design, that design really helps in doing business, So that's something which is happening at the bottom of the pyramid, where the mass turnaround happens in the area of products, where you probably manufacture 1 lakh pieces or 2 lakh or more pieces. So people, the clients do understand that design does play a role. Still, most of the clients think it does cosmetic work, but it gives them more revenue because they can actually charge more to the client if they make a beautiful product.
Yeah. No, what I meant was, are you having a strategic conversation in the sense that can you tell the client, okay, you've given me a brief, but actually your brief is wrong. I want to be able to develop that brief with you.
So this is something which over the years we have evolved. Let me tell you that we introduced a program called Strategic Design Partnership, SDP is what we called way back in 2006. We developed certain modules like, co-creation, idea factory, and we actually took these names and on our company's name, and we went to the clients, and I remember in 2011, a client gave us a one-year engagement on strategic design partnership, thinking that we'll do a range of projects for them, products for them. So in a meeting where the CEO and all these people were there, and we talked about strategy. So this guy says, आप अपने चीज़ के बारे में बात करिए, strategy वगैरह तो marketing का काम है ना. This was in 2011, and whereas now it is they're understanding what strategy is. I would say that they won't totally give you the strategy, but they understand, they appreciate, they will gradually dole it out, because nothing happens overnight. But we talk a hell of a lot about strategy. People, the clients really appreciate it. They want to have this strategic design partnership, which is a longish engagement with the design companies, like the way you have with the ad agencies and all. So I think it's happening. So my belief, I think one of the big learnings which I have done over the last 22 years of practice is that things take their time. You just have to keep doing good stuff,
Yes.
You just keep bouncing, keep pumping in.
Yeah. So if you have IT, advertising, and design, okay, and these are like three sectors that any client really engages with, and you had to rank them on 10 in terms of closeness with the client. Where are each of these three? Where is design in terms of its proximity to the customer and how seriously it's taken? Where is IT and where is advertising?
So I think it's close to, but becoming closer to advertising. I think I'll rank around 7 to it.
Oh, that's very optimistic. That's good. And where is IT?
And so it's taking shape now, So the way that people look at ad agencies, that's the way they're looking at design companies now. Change happening. IT as a services, I think there are many parallelences which are there, and one can take a lot of cue from the IT industry. And I think another factor which you can add is the management consulting companies.
Yeah,
like
so those would
McKinsey,
be like a
KPMG
10,
and all.
right? Yeah.
And I think design companies can actually, with the strategy as a core, they can also aspire to be somewhere in that horizontal T, with the management consulting companies.
Yeah, I think the management
and it's happening,
consultants.
like IDEO falls in the same T, it probably might be competing. I just met somebody in the US, which is supposed to be the biggest design company, which has been taken over by Wipro. They have invested in a big way. So this guy was telling me that they are competing with KPMG, they are competing with such kind of people. So the moment it becomes strategic and you have design thinking, design ways of looking at things, you actually have an edge over there.
Yeah, I think you need to remember that actually, because I see firms like McKinsey having some design work coming through. Wherever it comes through, it may be through other sources or innovation sources or whatever. But even Dahlberg, they have a business unit here in design.
So they are buying design companies, McKinsey and all these people have bought design companies. And also, while in India, I'm telling you that we have dealt with McKinsey, BCG and all at the management level with several clients, where McKinsey has been the anchor point for innovation and design.
And then you've been coming in as another partner there. Yeah. Okay, so now we had these questions, now we'll have a rapid fire round to make things a little fun.
I
okay,
can't
you're not allowed, you have to respond, and you cannot say both. Okay? Okay, design schools, Indian NID versus Royal College of Arts.
NID.
Strategy or culture?
Strategy.
Strategy or culture?
Culture.
That's the right one.
I heard consulting.
No, strategy. There's a Peter, I don't know, I think it was Peter Drucker who said, culture eats strategy for breakfast. So
I think that's Genesis.
Experience or instinct?
Instinct.
Since he has both in the profession, working with daughter or working with wife?
Daughter.
Okay, that's because he's not working with his daughter now and he has been working with his wife for a very long time. More painful, clients or interns?
Clients always.
More painful, clients or journalists?
Clients.
The client relationship, client agency partnership that you most envy?
I have really no idea.
Come on, anyone, any client in an agency partnership, like I'll give you a clue of, say, Apple IDEO, for example, is one, but any others?
I really don't know. I'm not aware of it, actually.
Okay, fine, we'll let you go with that. Okay, 3 things you would have liked to tell a client, but you didn't, but you would have liked to be able to tell them to their face.
I didn't get it.
Huh?
Can you please repeat it?
So 3 things that you would have liked to tell a client, maybe something negative, but you didn't end up telling them.
Listen to us.
Okay.
Listen to us and listen to us all the time.
Okay, great. Design of everyday life or design of iconic design?
Starting with everyday and going to iconic.
Okay, make the everyday iconic. Okay. Passion or profit?
Passion,
Passion or purpose?
purpose.
Okay, good. So that's it for us.
Thank you.